Hello everyone, welcome to the Base Network. I'm your host, the Cope Crusader. Today, I have a doozy for you. Kind of piggybacking on my previous video where we're talking about Ben Shapiro.
Let's say you've been a bad girl.
No.
Let's say, hypothetically, you've been a naughty girl even.
Ben Shapiro did another oopsie. He recently invited Marco Rubio on his show, and they had a conversation about how the government stifles freedom of speech, the way in which they do it, examples of them doing it in the past, and how bad it is. But I'm here to tell you that Ben Shapiro, again, compounding on my previous one, he is the biggest fraud in conservative media. He is a fucking hypocrite. Because I was literally explaining this previous video. I'm going to pop a clip right here.
That is what it's about. Because Ben Shapiro would be able to explain to you how people are able to use words like anti-Semitism, racism, homophobia, transphobia in order to create missiles that are able to instantly obliterate any argument you have. So, for example, Ben Shapiro would know this very well. During the Black Lives Matter protest, what was the one instant secret technique that Black Lives Matter protesters were able to use to obliterate any conservative arguments about police brutality? You're racist. That's racist. Systemic racism. They don't have to provide any actual proof. It's just a word that we have been conditioned to hate. We hate racists. We hate homophobes. We hate transphobes. We hate people who hate, right? We're taught that since we're children. So people know you're able to use these words that basically mean you hate inserted group in order to obliterate any arguments they don't like. In the same way, the state of Israel and the Trump administration is using claims of anti-Semitism in order to obliterate any arguments criticizing the state of Israel for the campaign that they're doing in Gaza right now.
So we're going to watch Ben Shapiro and Marco Rubio have a conversation about how the government stifles freedom of speech and why it's bad, and just laugh at their hypocrisy, because how the fuck do you not see the double standard?
Secretary Rubio, thanks so much for joining the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So,
bro, he looks like a skinwalker. Is this like a filter? Ben Shapiro did him hella dirty. Look at Ben Shapiro's quality, right? Low-key mogging. He got a nice hairline, everything. And then you got Marco Rubio here, who literally looks like his skin is peeling off. And his face is in a slanted angle.
So let's talk about this major move that you just made at the State Department, getting rid of a big chunk of the censorship bureaucracy that had been created and pushed a while back, but then exacerbated over the course of the last few years, hidden. What's the story with what you are doing over at the State Department to get rid of the body formerly known as the Global Engagement Center?
Yeah, I think you have to understand the history behind it. It's real brief. They started it by saying, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all these terrible groups are radicalizing people online. We should do something about it. And, back when they came up with that 12 years ago, whatever it was, people are like, whatever makes sense. And then it metastasized. And it's like, there's foreign interference in our elections. We need to start going after that. Well, then by 2020, it became a movement to go after voices inside of American politics and begin to label people. And they put a guy in charge who basically was going around saying Trump speaks just like these foreign terrorists. His supporters speak just like these foreign terrorists. So now you have an individual running a State Department entity that was labeling American speech by Americans as foreign interference. And then really the kicker was, not only were they doing all that formally from the State Department, but they were taking State Department money and they were giving it to these third-party groups who were supposed to be like independent, verified arbiters of what's true and what isn't, what's good and what's bad. And these groups were deliberately targeting, I believe you were one of the ones they targeted, I think the Federalists, began putting labels on people. Now, you may say, okay, well, what's the importance of the label? Well, that's not just the issue here. The issue is not only did they put labels on people, that was then used to go to social media companies. It was used to go to outlets and say, you have to deplatform these people, or you have to cut back on how much views they're getting. You have to go after them. In essence, silence them. So in essence, it metastasized and the metamorphosis into a government-run entity that was targeting political speech in America, labeling it disinformation, and silencing it. All paid for by the American taxpayers directly and indirectly.
Sounds familiar? This is literally exactly what Marco Rubio himself, right? If you guys don't know who Marco Rubio is, he's not just some political commentator. He is the Secretary of State. He is the one in the Mahmood Kalaleh situation, is the one who wrote that 2-page memo saying that Mahmood Kalaleh is a threat to national security for him leading one of the protests based off of him being anti-Semitic. Again, not committing a crime. They didn't charge him of a crime. They didn't provide any details of what this anti-Semitic behavior allegedly was. They just simply said he was anti-Semitic, again, using the label They label him a word, provide no evidence, provide no further information. They simply just say, hey, you are a threat to national security. The burden of proof would be on the government to prove that he is a threat to national security. They didn't do that, and they're fighting to deport him right now. But again, Ben Shapiro, Marco Rubio are able to give this argument cleanly, perfectly, with no flaws, extremely logically. But when it comes to Israel, they don't use the same logic. The reason why is because I guarantee you, I've never looked this up. Let's see. How much does Marco Rubio get from fucking AIPAC? Oh, $1 million. Okay, great. Boom. $1 million. So maybe because he received over $1 million from pro-Israeli sources. I mean, that's the biggest problem, right? It's lobbying. That's the problem with our country. We have all of our politicians sold out to whoever the highest bidder is. So Israel funds literally everybody. So yeah, I mean, lobbying is probably one of the worst things that's going on in this country right now. Most of our politicians are being sold out to the highest bidder. Most people in Congress are getting funded by AIPAC. It's kind of like a bipartisan opinion to fund Israel completely, billions of dollars every single year. And you have to ask yourself why, and it's because AIPAC themselves brag that 90% of the people that they fund win their elections because they give a lot of money. It's just money makes the world go round. I mean, if someone's able to throw their dicks around and drop $1 million in some tiny little race because the other person has claimed their loyalty to AIPAC, it's an easy win. It's just sad to see, especially someone, again, like Ben Shapiro. I love Ben Shapiro. Used to watch him all the time. And it's sad to see that people are willing to erode freedom of speech for a foreign country. It's just like, what the fuck?
And that ends. So what happened when we took over, right before we took over, they got rid of this Global Engagement Center. They renamed it and moved it somewhere else. But, renaming something doesn't change it. You still leave the thing around. So we've undertaken, 12 weeks of looking, how do we reorganize this whole thing? How do we get rid of it? And that's what we're announcing today is we're taking the whole thing down. And it's about $50 million. I mean, it's not a small amount of money. And we're not going to be in the business of doing this anymore. In fact, we're going to be in the business of promoting free speech in America and around the world as a core American value. And that really is what we're going to be about right now. And we're also going to go back and look at, as an accountability project, all of the instances in which this was used as a weapon against American political voices. And the reason why that's important is not just because of accountability, it's to make sure it never happens again. You document these things so that someone in the future, when they get some bright idea like this, realize, why we shouldn't do it, because this is what it turns into.
Bro, literally perfect. Like, what a great argument, honestly. I want to vote for this guy. This guy sounds super reasonable. I love the energy for freedom of speech. Let's do the Trump dance for freedom of speech. Let's go.
And Secretary Rubio, it's a really good object lesson in what happens with some of these government agencies, which start off decades ago with the right purposes and then gradually are infiltrated by people with a significant political partisan agenda who then proceed to weaponize these institutions against Americans. We've seen this in USAID. Obviously, we see this
Correct.
Here with the GEC turned into another sort of body that was then hidden inside these agencies. And when people like President Trump talk about the deep state, this is the kind of stuff that he's talking about.
Yeah, so USAID is another great example. Humanitarian aid. It was created for development and humanitarian aid. Where it really went off the rails is when humanitarian aid and development aid was turned into how do we infuse domestic political priorities into what we fund around the world. So when it became a domestic political priority to take on, transgender rights, now all of a sudden you've got programs by Americans couched as humanitarian or development aid in other countries around the world. In essence, they injected domestic political considerations into foreign aid, and the result is, now it has to be rolled back. So it's another example. We're going to continue to do humanitarian aid. What we're not going to do is use humanitarian aid to spread a domestic ideological movement globally.
That's literally what the government has been doing for the past fucking how long? You know what I mean? Like we literally done that for almost every single country. We did it in Vietnam, we did it in Korea, we did it in Israel. Like, wasn't that the whole Cold War? Wasn't that the whole fucking, whatever. That's basically it, because, I mean, we can continue with the whole conversation. It's just going to be a bunch of circle jerking of shit we agree on, because obviously we agree with everything he just said. I agree with. It's bad to do that. Let's not do any of that. But from who it's, look who it's coming from. It's like, literally 2 fucking minutes ago, you're out here bloodlusted for this dude who's like about to get deported and he has a wife and kids here in the States. Like, it's like, dude, come on. But that's about it for today. I hope you guys liked the video. I try to make it a little bit shorter. I'm going to edit this thing down because I was yapping a bit, but that's about it. Hope you guys liked the video. I'm not affiliated. Peace.